Hi everyone, it's Kieran from Filmstorm Studios, and today I'm actually doing a fan request. I've had a lot of questions about how to create a system that you can press a button from third person and then go into first person. And today we're going to do this in Playmaker, as a lot of people like using Playmaker. So basically all I've done is I've downloaded this night model from the Unity Asset Store. I think it's a free download, and it looks really nice and detailed. And all I've done is I've just moved that default camera just behind him to kind of give that third person view. And I've got the strafe locomotion set. This is from one of our upcoming packs on Gumroad, and we're just going to use these simple walking ones to set up a quick animator, because basically it's more about the technical side of how to set up the camera rather than do all the animation side. So let's quickly just set up the animations. Let's just call this animator. And it's always good to go over this stuff because a lot of people want to know how it's done. Let's go to animator. You'll notice we have this little animator here. Let's go to our strafe locomotion set. Let's grab our idle, wherever our idle is. Pretty sure I think it's that one. Yep, so let's just grab our idle. Excellent, let's just create a blend tree. And let's make this a 2D freeform Cartesian. We want to drag that idle back into there. So that's going to be at 0, 0. Let's come up to our parameters. We want to create an input X and an input Z, so our left and right. We won't worry about magnitude for this one, just because basically it's going to stay in the same thing. Let's drag out 4 more fields. Okay, we want to create a negative 1x and a positive 1x, so that's left and right. We want to keep this at 0, make that 1, so that's forward. Make that negative 1, which is back. And then we want to make both of these zeros because that's our idle. So our idle should actually be here. Let's just drag that up. Oh, can't do that. Let's just move this into there. So that's our idle. So our left, we want walk west, because walking west is left. We want walk east, which is walking to the right. So we want a positive 1. We want south, which is negative 1, and we want to walk north. Excellent. So here you can see we've got these set up. And we need to make this input X and input Z. And now you can see that we've got our strafing set up. Now, if you're going to use a big model like this, you'd probably take the animations into Motion Builder and just slightly take out the arms a bit. Or you can also put an additive animation on. There could also be a different way to adjust it by going to the night, clicking on the night avatar. And that will actually take you into here, and you'll see in here is our night avatar. We can configure. Let's just save the scene. We'll just call this scene. And in here, you'll see in this scene, we've got these guys. And you could also just then rotate these arms up a slight bit. Just grab that angle. And this is like not the way you want to do it, but it should adjust the overall animation, just to make it look a bit better. So then say done, apply, and then if we go back to here, jump into the animator, and there you can see that we simply adjusted the arms to stick out a bit more, so it suits the animations if you have a larger animation. So to make an adjustment like that is very simple and quick. Alright, so now that we've got the actual back system set up, let's go into our night, and let's just click on him and let's come over to Playmaker. FSM, and we're just going to call this our movement so we can control him. We want to get axis vector, and we want to store the vector as input vector, and we also want to grab this, create an empty object, and call this camera base, and we want to zero out, or we actually want to drag the camera base into the night, so just in its base, you'll see it's there, it's all zeroed out, make sure it's all zeroed out, and then come to camera base, come up, and then kind of just adjust where you want the camera to sit, and also drag the main camera under there, so then you'll see if we move this, you're also going to move that camera. Alright, so say we'll just have it there, that looks very nice. Under camera base, let's make a new FSM. We're going to call this camera rotate. So basically we're just going to control this with our mouse. We're going to call this camera rotate. We want to create a mouse look. Make both of the X and Y 3, so it's not too fast. So you can see we have a really nice little motion there. And then also we want to create a new FSM, and we want to call this camera follow. Actually, this should be out, and we just want to create a new, just call this camera follow. So this is a new empty object. So basically, we'll drag this into the night. That's in the exact same spot as that camera base. And under here, we want to come to that new FSM we created called camera follow, and we want to say follow the player. And let's go to action browser, and let's say camera. Oh wait, let's smooth. Oh, I think it's follow. Move towards. There we are. No. Move towards. There we are. And we want to make the finish distance 0. And we want to target that camera follow. Max speed, make it about 50. Excellent. So if we just press play quickly, and we look around, you'll see that we can circle the player. So that's our simple system, and you'll notice that the mouse was inverted, and I always like to uninvert it. So just come in, click invert, click play again, and you'll notice that it's very nice. Excellent. So now what we want to do is quickly set up his movement. So we've basically done this one. We want to also store the input magnitude. We want to make it relative to that main camera. So drag that main camera in there. Now we need to send. We also want to get the two axes. So make it twice. We want to get horizontal, and we want to get the vertical. Make sure it's spelled the correct way. Input X is horizontal, and input Z is vertical. Okay, so now we want to get out of there. We want to set animator float twice. So basically now we're going to send those two inputs over to our animator. So we want to get the input X, we want to get the input Z, we want to send those two values, we want to set input Z as input Z, so every frame, and input Z is input Z. So you can see that that's all set up. We jump out of there, press play, and now use our arrow keys. You can see that he's moving around. He doesn't actually turn in the direction when we start to move. So let's quickly set that up. So let's just call this idle. let's copy and paste, say no. That's just asking if you want to use the default state. We want to call this moving. We want to create two events, to idle and to move. To idle, sorry, that should be to move and to idle. Just link them up. Now we need something to send it to the different event, and we want to say compare, float compare. We want to compare that input magnitude to 0.1. If it's greater than 0.1, we want to move. Copy, and let's paste this into this moving one. And if it is less than 0.1, so we let go of the key, it's going to go back to idle. All right, so let's just check that that's linked up. Let's click play, and you'll notice when I press forward, it's going to go, and when I press release it, it's going to go back. So the purpose of this is now we want to actually make him look in the direction that we're moving. So let's now create a smooth look. I think it's smooth look at direction. Up vector is 1. That should be good. Okay, now that we've done that, let's jump into here. Press forward, and now you can see that he moves in the direction of that, but we actually want it to be, we want him to move in the direction of what our camera is looking at. So you could always, that's probably more for like a GTA solution. So that's a GTA solution. This other one, smooth look at, this is probably more for what we need for strafing. So go to your camera, create an empty object, and we want to call this player look at. And then go to your Z and make it 20. So basically it just pushes it way out in front. And then we're just gonna make it look at there. That should be fine. That should all be good. Okay, now let's press play. So now when we press back, it's not, he'll back up correctly and not go to the side. All right, so now you can see we've set up a simple strafe system. He looks where he's going, he strafes correctly. This system is set up for a sword, so you can actually see his hands are in the sword position. So that looks really nice. But now the main thing of the tutorial was, how do we get from here to a first person setup? So basically what we want to happen is we want, as soon as we press a button, we want to press, like say F, it's going to change camera and go into the head. So how do we do that? Well, I've set up before a button. So basically just create one more number. So I made it 19, come to change camera, or just type in change camera. So you can create a new name, and I made the button F. So you want to make the positive button, just whatever you want, but I've made it F, so I can just press that on the keyboard. Okay, so now we want to come in here. Let's come to the head, and we want to create a game object. We want to call this FPS Position. Okay, we want to move this forward and say that should be pretty good. Let's we want to try and make that, and because that's the correct location. You'll notice that we have these variables, so we want minus 90, 90, and 90. Alright, so that's our FPS position. I basically just copied, see how we have this coordinate system and then this coordinate system. You basically just want to make it the same so it transitions nicely. Okay, now under here we want to create a TPS position inside that camera base. So you'll notice we've got TPS in here. We want to come to our main camera. We want to copy that component, so it's basically just going to pull that position information. We want to paste that in here, so you'll notice that now that's sitting in there quite nicely. Okay, so it's all well and good when we're in third person. This is going to actually rotate. This rotates our camera, but when we move to FPS, it's going to actually keep trying to move that. So we need to we need to disable this camera base, and then just let the main camera rotate on its own while it's in here. So let's come to main camera. We want to set up a new FSM to handle this stuff. So let's come to camera and call it camera switcher. Okay, when we start the game, it's going to be in third person, or you can have it start in first person, whichever one you want. Let's come to FPS, make this FPS, and let's create an event to FPS and also to TPS. So that's two first person, two third person. Let's link these up accordingly and whack them together. So now you can see they're nice and joined together at the hip. Now, when we press a button, we want to say get button down. We want to change camera. Now, upon changing camera, we want to say change to FPS. Let's copy this guy and let's paste this guy into here. So to TPS. So that's going to be good. So basically, if we press play and we press F, FPS. Third person. So now let's come into the third person, and we want to say set parent, and we want the parent position of our main camera to be this TPS position, and we want to reset the position and rotation. Did we actually have any rotation? No, we don't have any rotation. So that should be perfect. So basically we're just taking this position and we're going to set that as that. So that'll be perfect. Let's copy this and let's paste this in here, and we want to set this as our FPS location. Now when we're in here, what we want to do is we actually want to control that rotation. So let's jump into this camera rotate from that camera base, and let's just copy this mouse look, and let's jump back into the camera switcher, and in FPS we want to paste this in. So this is going to be we're going to drive our mouse looking around in there just with this part instead of doing it from this camera base. So now that we're in here, we actually want to I think it's enable FSM. And we want to enable, we actually want to disable this one and rotate. So we want to disable it. So when we're in first person, we don't want to be able to rotate the camera with this camera base. We just want to control it with this node in here. All right, so let's give that a go. All right. Okay, you can see that the rotation is pretty weird, but that's because we didn't limit any of the rotations or anything, and there's probably a nicer way to handle that. So let's jump back into here. So you see how we have this FPS position? We want to kind of do the same thing that we did with our camera base and call this camera FPS base, and we want to drag, well, actually let's copy this guy and let's call this FPS Follow, and chuck that in there. Actually no, we don't really even need that, because we just want to parent the camera to this. So let's just zero this guy out, right? And we want to make this guy a new FSM, and we want to call this FPS Follow. So basically this is going to follow this point, and it's not going to let any of the rotation affect it. So you'll see in a second why I've done that. So let's go in here and let's go move towards. Excellent. And we want to move this towards this, the FPS position, and we want to make it 50, so it's like nice and snappy. And then in our main camera, we want this to actually parent to our camera FPS base. Now, check out what's going to happen. Press F. Now we're getting a much better thing, and you can see that we've actually you can look down and you've got that FPS set up. We can strafe, and you can see we're getting a little bit of clipping. So let's just jump into our camera, our near plane, and make that 0.01. Press F, and now you can see that sword isn't clipping anymore. Wonderful. It's kind of clipping through the camera. So let's just make that 0.1. Now you'll notice one other thing. I mean, this is pretty much the end of the tutorial here, but if I jump into FPS, we look around, you can see that we're actually looking over here. Now in most FPS games, let's just quickly cover that because I know there's going to be questions about that. Let's jump into movement, and what we want to do is we want to create let's actually just copy this guy, and we want to create a new event and say 2 FPS and 2 TPS. Now in here, let's go 2 TPS, whack, actually let's make it to the idle side. Let's delete the idle, and we want to create 2 FPSs. Okay, now let's just jump back to our main camera, and let's just get that get button down. Now I'm sure you can see what I'm doing here, but you'll see in a second if you don't. Let's paste our get button down to FPS and to FPS, and let's also chuck it down in here as to TPS. We want to make this FPS moving, and let's also just color it like yellow or something so we know that it's different. And the main thing in here is we always want to be looking at that the player look at. So as soon as we press F, so if we jump, let's actually just squeeze this down. So if we jump into play mode and I press F, oh, it's actually got an error, but let's press F. It's just saying about that idle. Now you can see that he's always looking in that that position. So let's just delete this float compare because it's not going to be able to do that. Let's turn up this speed to 16. Why 16? Because it's a good number. All right, so you can see that we've set up the look at, and as you can see in this one, he's looking in the position that we are. Press F and we are back in third person, first person, third person, and as you move the camera around, he stops looking around. First person, he looks around. Alright, so there you go. We have created a first person to third person and third person to first person camera switcher system. I hope you've enjoyed this whole walkthrough, and if you want this animation pack, it's going to be going up online probably end of this week, so stay tuned for that. There's also going to be some combat strafing animations in there, and then followed with that there's going to be a new combat pack released in the following week, which will be really nice, and then we're going to do a couple of tutorials. Following on from that, we've actually got Gamescom coming on, I think it's this Sunday, US time, or Monday, 5 o'clock in Australian time. So looking forward to that, and we're actually going to cover how to publish Xbox games from Unity to your Xbox One, and get excited because we'll be covering Xbox One X when that comes out, and how to convert your Xbox to a dev kit. So everyone, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next tutorial.